Let's understand the client-server architecture. It has two entities, one the client and the other the server, and they both communicate. In this model, client will send a request to the server will receive it, provide a response to the client. So basically this is all what the client-server model is. So what is client? Who can act as a client? Let's see some practical examples. Your browser can be a client. You make a request to the URL. Once you hit it, it is sending a request to the server and then receiving the response and then rendering it on the browser. Postman can act as a client. You make a request to the server for this API endpoint and it will serve the response to you. Even the CLI can act as a client. We can use the curl command to hit the server and this will provide us the same result as we got from the Postman. So in a nutshell, anything which can make a request to the server can act as a client. So let's understand what is the server. In simple terms, server is a machine which runs our code. Let's see some examples for the code base. Let's see the front-end code. I created this site using ReactJs and this is the code base for it. Now to host such a code base, you need a server. That server could be your local machine. It could be an EC2 instance on the AWS, or it could be a dedicated server placed on your office premises. Similarly, for the backend, this could be the code base. Over here, I have created a backend using SpringBoot application, and this is running on my local machine. Again, similar to the front end, this could be running on my local machine, or I could place it on an AWS EC2 instance, or any other dedicated servers. Now once the servers are running, we can access the server using the URL or the endpoint. Like in case of front end, the server is hosted and I can access it using the domain name. Similarly, for the backend, the server is hosted on my local machine. I can access it through one of the endpoints. Let's see some examples of clients in case of the front end application. One of the client could be the browser. We can hit the URL, it will send a request to the server, receive the response and render the response on the browser. In another case, CLI could be one of the clients. So over here, we can make a request using the curl command. It will fetch the response and show it on the console. Now for backend, let's see the different combinations of client and the server. So over here, our backend is running on a local machine and I have created these two endpoints, /name and /description, and our server is hosted on a local machine on the port 8080. Let's see what could be the different clients in this case. Browser could be one of the client. CLI could be another client. We can use the endpoint to hit the URL. Similarly, the other endpoint. Similarly, Postman can be another client. So you type the endpoint and send a request and it will return you a result. Similarly, the next endpoint, you can send the request and it will return the result. Do you know that even the Selenium is based on client-server model? Let's see the Selenium WebDriver architecture. So over here we have the client and the server. Selenium language binding acts as a client and server could be the Selenium grid or the browser drivers. In this setup, as we can see, the test automation scripts are written using these language bindings. One of the automation tester could be using Java to write such scripts and other could be using Python to write such scripts. What internally happens is that these scripts are translated into WebDriver protocol JSON format and then client send them to the servers. Server understands these requests and then it processes it, performs the necessary action on the browser and then server provides the necessary response to the client. Let's see the setup in action. So these are the probable list of the clients which we can use. So in our case, we would be using Java. So we can see we are using Java as a client here and we have added this as a dependency in our project. Now using the client, we have written this script to open the browser and access this URL podtest.n. We will be using Selenium grid as our server. So let's start the server. So the server is started now. Now the communication between the client and the server in this case happens using WebDriver protocol. To view the documentation of WebDriver protocol, you can use this website. Here you will get the information about different types of calls which the client internally makes to the server. Let's see the setup in action. On the left hand side, we have a test script which will act as the client, and on the right hand side, we have the Selenium grid working as a server. Let's trigger it. So a session has been created and this has opened up the site podtest.n. Let's check one more variant of client-server architecture in terms of Selenium execution. Over here, we will be using Postman as our client and we will be using Chrome driver as our server. Let's start the execution. So here I will run the collection. So as you can see, this session has been created and the navigate URL is also returning true. And this is the session which was created. So in a nutshell, this is how the client-server architecture works. I hope you enjoyed the session today and would have learned something new. If you did, please subscribe the channel and do share the content with others as well. Thank you for taking out time to watch Podtest.